This is Beach Talk Radio.
Good morning, Mr. and Mrs. America, and all ships at sea. This is your captain speaking, Dean Jean. Dean Jean. The following will be a test of the ship's whistle, the sonar alarm, the cable alarm, and the atomic attack alarm.
Hello, America, and welcome to the #1 radio station in all of Fort Myers Beach. Beach Talk Radio. Here are your hosts, Kim and Ed Ryan.
And good evening, everybody, and welcome to another special episode of Beach Talk Radio. This for Thursday night, a full week of shows today, just like the early days of the storm. We were on every night at 6 o'clock. A lot of things going on Fort Myers Beach, from beach renourishment to FEMA's rule changes to the dune walkover and tonight the beach school. Just want to remind everybody that we'll be live at Margaritas tomorrow night at 5 o'clock, the Friday night happy hour show. And we will have all of our, this isn't dirty laundry behind us. We'll have all of our Vibe shirts and hoodies and all of our merchandise with us tomorrow night. Let's bring our guests in for a discussion about the beach school. Monica Schmucker is with us and John Koss, both members of an ad hoc committee to deal with the Lee County School District. And why don't either one of you tell us what this ad hoc committee is about?
Sure. Monica, if you don't mind, I'll jump in. You know, we were having discussions with the board, but it's kind of difficult in the settings. We were having town halls, which we could talk to them, and real formal settings to where maybe we could speak publicly, but we really couldn't get down to the nitty gritty and discuss the nuts and bolts on how potentially we could go forward. So the superintendent felt it was a good idea to set up a smaller committee. He has his chief of staff, his chief of facilities, and then his operations manager that we interact with mostly on a weekly basis. And from the beach, from our end, it's myself, it's Monica, it's Pat Van Ness, Jim Adderholt, and we have Jenny Tardif there as well. And like I said, it allows us to get down to the more the nitty gritty of how we can come together on a solution.
And how many times have you guys met?
Correct me if I'm wrong, Monica. I think, because some weeks we have Zoom meetings, and you'll hear in our discussion today, one week was with their demographer. Yesterday we had a Zoom meeting. They told us they wanted to give us the respect of discussing these courses of action with us before they went out publicly, because we had asked them to make some changes. But I think the total has been four.
I think four.
Okay. And both, just so the audience knows, both of you have kids in the school.
Yes, sir.
So where are we now in terms of the school being cleaned out? Have they done any work on the facility yet?
I got a chance to walk through the school yesterday, and they've mucked it out. They've gotten all, I wouldn't say all of the damaged stuff, but I think they got out everything that they believe could cause mold, and they have air purifiers running in there, and much the same thing that we all had to do with our homes down here. But they've gotten all of that out. They have not. There's been some people that have been upset because they don't see any more work being done on it. They're holding off till they start on any type of renovation until a decision's made. So they basically cleared it out, and they're getting ready for a decision to be made so they can start putting it back together.
And what are the dates that people need to know about for these upcoming meetings, if people want to go from the beach to attend the meetings or follow them? What are the dates?
Well, next week, Wednesday, they're going to have a briefing, and they basically, the options are going to be presented to the board from the district staff, and kind of go over everything, all of the factors, all of the issues, all of the options, kind of talk it through. And this briefing is in 1 p.m. And then I'm not sure, John, if they do anything. They have a regular school meeting in the evening. I don't know if they're going to address it. But then they'll take direction from the board. The staff will take direction from the board. So if the board says, I want you to research this, or I want you to kind of break down this option or look into these other things, then the staff will take it back, and then they will vote on something like a couple of weeks down the road. They don't have it set yet when they'll be voting, because obviously if they need to do some research then they may need additional time. But I think they're looking at is it the first or the second week of March, John, that potentially would be the soonest they'd vote.
I think the earliest we could have the vote, I believe, is the second week of March. So it's going to be in March sometime, from my understanding. It could be the second week or it could be the fourth week.
Okay.
That's my understanding right now. But they also have like procedural stuffs to deal with to get it to a vote, of stuff that, like Monica said, they might still have some more research to do, but then they got to make it available in their correct time frames and everything.
So Marcia says that it's a 1 o'clock meeting with public comment. So if people want to go to the 22nd meeting and speak at public comment, they'll have their 1 minute, 2 minutes, depending on how many people are there.
Yeah,
Correct.
if there's depending, if there's up to 20 people, I think there's 3 minutes, and then up to 30 people, it's 2 minutes, and
Okay.
anything over that is 1.
So do you guys feel like this committee was worth your time, that they were actually listening to what you were saying, or it was just a big snow job and they're just there to placate you until this whole thing's over?
I believe, not to jump in, Monica can give her opinion too. I believe that the committee has been incredible. I believe that we're in a tough spot here. Everybody knows we're in a tough spot, and we're going to go through the slides and describe why. I won't lie and say that it's been easy all times. There's been some emotions in the meetings, and there's been some passion, and rightfully so. But I do believe firmly that they've listened to us, and that my personal opinion is that they have rolled their sleeves up, and they're working on our behalf. We're yet to see the final result, and we'll see what happens in the end. But I do believe that up to this point that the meeting's been very fruitful, and that they are working with us and listening to us.
So I mean, it's interesting, Ed, because you couldn't have chosen two. I mean, John and I have been working really closely together. You could have chosen 2 more different people, because he's very good like that, and he does a lot of hope with people. I'm very skeptical, and I question everybody, and I question everybody's intention. And so John and I kind of balance each other out like that, I think. But my feelings on that have evolved. I think that initially it looked like they were just trying to placate us, but then, I think that we've come a really long way, and they have listened to us, and they've taken things into consideration. Everything hasn't gone our way. But I was just telling John, it's almost like we've been able to work miracles by how far we've come, because I think when we started, we thought they were just abandoning us. Like, they just shut our doors and they weren't coming back, and I honestly think that was the plan. And I think that we've come a long way from that, for sure.
So obviously the big issue is enrollment. If there was 150 kids in that school now, they'd probably be working harder to get it open. What have you guys done, and the other people on the committee done, to convince them that enrollment will go up?
Well, so I don't know. Do you have the slideshow for? And I don't know if you want, because we could chat a little bit about that. But we've definitely discussed enrollment, and I think what we've tried really, really hard to do is separate out the enrollment issue versus the capital cost to rebuild. And one of the reasons is because they have collected insurance money and FEMA money because of the destruction of our building. And so we're saying, look, take that money, put it back into the building, put us back at 0, then we're even, and then let's work on enrollment numbers, right? Because enrollment is an issue that's been an issue. But yeah, if you want to pull up the slides, we could actually maybe systematically go through them and just kind of address the issues if you'd like.
I did have them up there. I just want to make sure that I have the right thing. Is this where it starts? Okay.
Yeah. So go to slide 4, which is where they talk about enrollment. Slide 4 and 5.
All right.
Which, interestingly, they keep using this number of 54 students, but that's not really a fair assessment. Right now we have an island that's completely destroyed, and we have a lot of people that are displaced, and a lot of the kids, we expect them to come back without Bay Oaks. The parents will they don't have after school care. They wouldn't be able to bus the kids later, to get people who go to work. The parents don't want to drive all the way out there to get their kids. So it just, obviously, once we get the kids back on the island, those numbers will go up naturally as people start coming back, right? And we can talk about comparisons here in a little bit, but we met with the demographer, okay? And these numbers are based on assumptions that this demographer has made. Is somebody talking? I'm sorry. Okay. Okay. So he actually acknowledged that these numbers are based on assumptions and not necessarily complete information, because there's a lot of just there's a lot that goes into it. He acknowledged also, and we all acknowledge, that Fort Myers Beach is quite unique, and we're in a very unique situation. We discussed several factors that would change that opinion. We said, well, what if this happens and this happens, and all these things were kind of discussed. And everybody pretty much acknowledged that, yeah, there's a lot of factors that can go into that will show very, very different numbers. The school district agreed. What Pat Vanass did some great research, what we all did, but Pat Vanass put together some documents. And the school district agreed that what he did was he made these, assumptions that paint a completely different picture. What I mean with assumptions is, rather than taking, the projections that demographer or certain assumptions, putting in other assumptions. Like, for example, saying that if, we get additional resorts, that might add 5, students. And if we add or if we expand the waiver program, like Sanibel did, right? Where they actually campaigned to get more kids on the island to come to school for various reasons. They agreed that would increase enrollment numbers to make an actual difference in cost per student. Sanibel has 40% of their students come from off island, and we only have 15. So if we expand our waiver program like they did, and campaign like they have, then they agree that that it's realistic to expect those types of increases.
So Monica, these numbers here, they're from a demographer on your team.
No, these numbers are from their team. And just to cut it plain and simple, he basically just looks and says, if homes are worth close to $1 million, they produce this many kids per 100 homes. And it's just real cut and clear dry. It's kind of a cookie cutter way to look at it. And he looked at our island and said that a lot of our island's being rebuilt, and we know that where our homes are going to be worth, and they're probably going to be worth, closer to $1 million than not, or at least in the upper hundreds of thousands of dollars. And that only generates X kids per 1,000 families. And that's all that I'm comfortable with saying that I will back that what's going to happen with the population.
Is there a way that I can share my screen, or maybe I can send it to you? Because I do have a spreadsheet that he put together, and I can just share the numbers. But essentially what Pat did was putting these, these little things of this many kids, coming from all, either the waiver program or a magnet school or pre-K. We don't have pre-K. We don't have any pre-K on the island. We don't have any preschool on the island. If we throw in a pre-K class.
So Pat, with Pat's numbers, Pat increased our 15% that Monica touched on that we currently have, and just raised it to what the Sanibel have. Because as we all know, Sanibel went through the situation that we're going in some time ago. I think it might be the evolution of a beach town, that as the town starts to move away from, starts to get built up in more expensive properties, that this is the natural thing that happens. And Sanibel went through this. So we mirror a lot of what we think that we can do off of what Sanibel did through the campaign that they did, through all the hard work that they've done. We have not done that on our island. So we believe we can make that happen.
Let me ask you guys some specific questions. We've had some resorts on the island that were open before the storm. Is it that the folks that worked at the resorts didn't live on the island, and the rule was if you didn't live on the island, you couldn't go to the school? Is that
that wasn't necessarily the rule, but the people did not know that they could bring their kids to the island. We need to do a better job on the island. Our employers, we need, me being one of them, we need to do a better job of explaining to our workers that we have an amazing school here and that they can bring their kids to the island, because the program was there. It was just underutilized because we didn't realize the situation that we were in.
So how many? Go ahead, Monica.
No, so part of our ad hoc committee, we do have on there president of the chamber, Jackie, and that's one of the things too that she's contributed. She said, look, we can do better by spreading the word, letting our businesses on the island know, hey, and then even some of the businesses, we talked about different things that they could do, like making schedules, of certain employees with kids coincide with schedules. Because of course, if we have Bay Oaks, the kids they go to school, they go to Bay Oaks, and then the parents can pick them up after work. These are things that we can work together as a community to do super easily.
We've also, Ed, talked to them about our school being a STEM program, and not to get, but we believe we're in a unique situation down here on the island. So we believe we could have a STEM program that offers opportunities within it. One of the opportunities that we're looking at potentially, and we've already reached out to FWC, we've reached out to FGCU, we've reached out to the Otsego Bay Restoration Foundation, of having like a water school type of thing in our elementary school, and it's been very, very well received. So
let me try and I just want to kind of stay on a path here before we start to veer off a little bit. So on the resort side, how many kids did you estimate would come to the school if you go years out? I know it's hard now because nothing's open, but
in Pat's projections, we've only added 5 to that list right now.
It would be so many more, but he only added 5, and that's what. So let me tell you. So by expanding, I can give you exact numbers. By expanding the proximity zone to Summerlin, which is all of Fort Myers Beach, we get 9 more kids. By increasing the waiver program and getting 40% off island, as opposed to 15% of what we currently have, we would add 20 kids.
So, but wait, Monica, in Pat's model, that us going from 15% to 40% also includes our workforce that you're asking about with the resorts and stuff. That is an avenue that gets us up to 40%. One of the avenues that gets us to 40% from 15%.
Okay. Well, okay. The magnet program, he looked at, what he did was he looked at other similar programs and how many more kids that brings into other schools that have other programs, and we estimated that would increase by 15%. Looking at what it's done in other schools. So that would be a total of 57.9, right? I don't know how you get 0.9 kids. But anyway, essentially, when we added everything up, by adding a pre-K, he put 11 kids. When we added everything together with the conservative, now he has a less conservative number, but the most conservative one was a total of 182 students, which brings our cost per student down to $9,436. And if you look at the slides, that's less than Sanibel and less than Pine Island. I mean, it's and everybody on that team, I mean, the district staff that we've been working with and putting these numbers, they said, these are all realistic expectations. I mean, it's nothing crazy or unreasonable to expect that we can add students by doing these things. I mean, super easy.
So if we look back at this presentation here, this is not your presentation. This is the school board's agenda for next week.
Correct.
And
so go to page 7.
Page.
Is it page 7? Yeah, it's page 7. No.
Okay, I can keep going. Committee.
All right,
here's
up, you passed it. Up. All right. There. So if you look, they keep using that 21,000 number, right?
Yes.
But you see Sanibel's at 12, Pine Island is at 11, and we're saying if we do what these things, which are super simple, we would be down at 9,400 per student. So it's less than what they got there.
That's if you get it up to how many kids?
182.
And what year of this, what year is that possible according to FANS?
We've been talking to them it's hard with, Patrick didn't do a year by year breakdown, but we've been talking to them about a 5-year plan.
Well, which is like 2 years of rebuilding.
Sure.
Right,
So
but we need a school. We can't
right,
do
right.
it without one.
And so when you say to the superintendent and the rest of the board, we're going to have 182 kids in 5 years, do they buy that?
Well,
No,
we have,
No, they
no,
don't
they
buy it.
don't. No, they don't buy it.
wait, hold on. We have. Well, it depends on who you're talking about. If you're talking about the school board, we haven't really put these things out in front of the school board yet. What we've done is in our ad hoc committee meetings is talked about all these factors, did the research, and we've brought it back to so who we meet with there is, can you tell me, John, what are their titles? It's the chief of staff. What's Wagner? He does something
Okay,
about
so
construction.
that's a good one, Monica. So when you look the chief of staff, superintendent's,
He says
the
yes.
chief-
All of
think-
these numbers are realistic.
all right.
Yeah, so it was
No,
all very-
I'm sorry, Monica, not to step on your toes. They say that that what Pat put in his spreadsheet seems like they're realistic assumptions. I would
Yeah.
tell you that and this is just John's personal opinion, I do not believe that they feel that we're going to achieve them numbers, but they do believe that our assumptions are not unrealistic. If I could say that, but I do not think that there's a strong belief on their side that we're going to hit them numbers.
I don't agree with that. My read on them was if you can do these things, then because it's not like they're crazy numbers. Like he used everything on numbers they pulled from the environment from other schools and and the assumptions were realistic. They weren't like just made up numbers. And every single one that he put on there, they said, yep, that's doable. Yep, that's doable. But we all agreed that in order to do those things, we have to have a school. Like we can't do it without one. That's the bottom line.
Well, and they're going to, isn't that like, aren't they going to be like, well, it's the chicken before the egg thing? I mean, but I don't know how you do it without a school.
And that's just it, right? So if you want to kind of like go through one of the things too, and I don't know, was it slide 10? Where am I? Slide 10. One of the stuff they were talking about, and I can't find it.
I have all three of these. These are all three of the options, I guess, that they're going to be looking at. Now, these three options, we had a couple months ago, we had the board looking at some options. Did they change these up a bit, or are they the exact same
No,
thing?
they changed them up, and I will tell you that they changed them up primarily based out of our ad hoc committee.
Let's go through them then.
Okay.
Let's see. Okay, so you got A here, John. What's this about?
Okay, so A, in my eyes and Monica's eyes, we believe this is a throwaway option. It's basically to restore the historic building and to just hold on to the campus for potential use in the future by them or the city. To us, that's a throwaway option. So B.
Yeah, we'd rather focus on B and C.
Okay, so real quick to the skinny, because it's hard to read this PowerPoint slide and understand. Like, we had an hour briefing with them, and I think that we have a pretty good understanding of what B means. And I don't think that this slide represents well what B actually means. In our discussions with them previously, we felt that there was a willingness from them to pay for us to have a portable campus, a trailered facility campus on our island for our kids temporarily. So what we did on our side of the committee is we looked at the numbers that they were talking about for that trailered campus, and it was about $5.8 million. Okay. We went back to them and said, we don't see the value in wasting money on trailers here on our kids. Wasting, or a trailered campus. So in both option B and C, you have to remember they're going to renovate the historical building in both of them options. So we get the historic building back separate of that $5.8 million. What we've said to them is, instead of spending it on trailers, let's start building a brick and mortar facility behind the historic building that would allow us to have a campus that's usable. It may not be for 150 kids from day one, but it will be a brick and mortar facility, and it will allow us some growth of our population now. We're waiting on numbers back from them to see how much growth that we can achieve in there. So this was like a negotiated, and then In doing that, then we will embark on a 5-year enrollment plan with them. And if we're able to make our enrollment within 5 years, at that time, then they would make the capital investment to build the rest of our campus. They're not building up front.
So did they agree to that? Did they agree to build a building in the back before?
Well, no, this is what they're deciding on. This is their option B. This is one of the routes that they can take.
Now, a few things about this too, because like he said, it doesn't really read. I don't know if it's very clear based on like what we've discussed, but one of the things is the historic building is going to be restored, right? And so the idea is we would use that as classrooms to put the kids in, but they, even though it has the capacity to hold all the kids, they say that it really wouldn't work very well for all of the kids. So the idea is if we could get as many kids as we can into that building, then we can use some community space. Rather than trailers, to use some community space to put, a few classes in, and there's nothing set in stone and there's nothing decided, but we've looked at, the possibility of using the library.
Okay, so I got a couple questions. About this. So just so people know, they have to restore the historic building. It's not an option for the school board. It's something they have to do. It's like required. You have to restore a historic building. First question is, and I'm trying to squeeze in a million questions. How many kids fit in the historic building?
We don't. We've been told before that at one point there was 150 kids in there, but based on current standards, that's a due out that they have back to us. But let me say, because I don't think we expressed this yet, that historical building by itself could not bring all of our kids back to the island because some of the ancillary space that we need, a kitchen, some of the other requirements that a school requires you to have, we cannot fit it all into that building. We would need something else there.
I want to be able to get all my questions in before 7. So there's no answer to that.
Not yet.
Okay. The second thing is when you talk about putting schools in the middle of a community, do you think that's realistic? Like with the craziness that goes on with all the schools, can you imagine having some parents at the historic school and then there's going to be some kids at whether it's Diamond Head or the library, and then
it's not Diamond Head. It would be.
You got the library. It's still a public facility. It's
right. But Ed, let me talk to that, please, because I met with the school and the library on there with the principal and with the staff yesterday, and we walked through that building, the top floor of that building, and there's been nothing written in stone, but I'll tell you, it was a very good meeting, and the people that were representing the board felt like there was a possibility that was going to work. Would it bring? Yeah, we would have one principal in between two schools, but they're a half a block away.
My point is safety. My point is safety.
So Ed,
kids in a public facility.
Yeah, Ed, it's not like a willy-nilly, we're just going to decide. There's very, very stringent standards, the SREF, which is state requirements for educational facilities that we have to meet, that have to be met. And that is something that we have talked at length in these meetings, as long as it meets SREF, and there's things that can be done, and that is absolutely something that would be addressed. This isn't just willy-nilly, we're going to put people in these buildings. I mean, these are all things that are considered.
They won't let the kids go there unless we can meet all of their physical security standards. But they're going to walk through the space. I know that it's a public building, but there are ways through the operations of that library to control it to where it won't be public. The elevator can be controlled to where it only goes to the third floor if there's a keyed person on there that does it, and with the staircases that they can be cordoned off to where the kids, the top floor would not be public access. Nobody could go up there. But as Monica said, if them requirements can't be met, then we wouldn't go in that building. That's one of the obstacles that we're working with them with.
So if the school board says we're gonna restore the historic building and we're gonna put trailers out front, and that's the only thing, would you guys say that's okay?
Me personally,
is that the end of the story, or are they also going to be building stuff?
Well, I mean,
for our community, Ed, because understand, me and Monica are both parents, right? But we both, I'm just going to speak for myself, not Monica. I live on this island. This island is part of me, and I don't ever plan on leaving this island. If we get a solution to where they put a couple trailers outside of that historic building, what it does is for the next couple years, our kids be able to come back onto this island. In 4 to 5 years, what it most likely means is we could very well not have a school on this island. So, you're asking me for my community or my kids. I believe that in working with them through some of these solutions, that there is a way to ensure that we have a school on this island long term. And for me as a member of this community, that is my biggest task.
I hear what you're saying. I guess I'm looking at it like knowing the school, I don't know them personally, but if they're looking at it from dollars and cents, that's my view of it. They just looking at it from dollars and cents standpoint. If they say the historic building and the trailers, and then, we'll see how the enrollment goes on one hand. And then if you guys say, well, it's the historic building, and then you have to start building us a school, it's almost like they could take it like you're pushing them into a corner.
No,
like
I think
we don't have any numbers yet.
No, I think, Ed, that's why
let Monica say something first. Go ahead. Go ahead.
We've already explored that option, and what we said is, if it's going to cost you $5.8 million to rent these trailers, because these trailers, we would have no asset, we would be renting them, they wouldn't be purchasing them, so it would be money that we'd be throwing away. And that's why we came to the compromise where we said, well, look, if you're planning on spending $5.8 million on trailers for however many years it was, why don't you take that money and instead build a building? It may not be big enough for everybody, but it's a start. And so that's where we came in with that compromise, where we were like, I mean, if you're going to do that anyway, put the money in the building, right?
Well, 5.8, Monica, will 5.8 cover a building?
It would probably not cover one as big as we need, but it's a start. And so if we are building enrollment, then at least it gets, that many more kids. And as we get more kids, then we would have another building, and that's a phase. It's a phased plan.
So you're saying use the 5.8 to build some kind of building, not a building with just 3 walls, because it won't cover the whole thing, but maybe it's a smaller building, so you have enough room for kids in the historic building and a second building, not a trailer.
Exactly. So plan. Mm-hmm.
So you're thinking the trailer is they're out instead of the building. I see what you're saying.
Correct.
I see. I got you.
Correct.
Go ahead, John. Go ahead.
No, that's all I was saying. That's correct. The trailer is they're out, and stress the historical building. I mentioned it, but I wanted to mention again, it's not usable by itself. So that 5.8 makes that usable with the additional facilities that we need and gives us some room for growth right now. So if we start working an enrollment plan with them and we're achieving our enrollment, it puts us in a little bit different of a situation, and it mitigates the risk on our end to where they're not building us the whole 150 student campus. Until we start showing them we're going to make them numbers.
I want to make a note too. They keep saying 150, but our current campus is like 220. So if we would go back into pre-Ian condition, it would be like 220. But whatever. I don't know.
Okay. Let's go. I'm going to put the slides back up and see. We got option C.
I can talk about option C. I guess John can kind of fill some things in. So a couple of things that I wanted to address. One is they had said something about doing a portable campus, but in our discussions with them, I don't know why that's what it says here on this slide, because we had talked about the temporary solution being exactly the same solution that we had just talked about, which is utilizing the historic building plus, if we can get into the library or whatever, so that we can save the money from the portables. So I just wanted to point that out, because that's what that says. Obviously, it would be the full ask, and they'd give us everything if they gave us the portables, but we're willing to say, you know what? Let's figure out another place to put these kids while you do the full build. And so essentially option C is give us the full building straight up, right? Have faith in us. Now, here's why, and I know that sounds like, okay, it's a big ask, but the thing is that the capital costs to rebuild the school are covered by insurance and FEMA, right? Their concern is not the capital cost to rebuild the school. It's more the long-term cost of running the school, because they keep using that number, that 21,000 per student number, but that really isn't a fair number based on a lot of the, solutions that we've come up with and the fact that they've been controlling it. So we agreed, and in this, what we did is we agreed to then solve that long-term enrollment number and limit that long-term risk to the district by doing these things like committing to being a part of putting that we have a committee that's looking into putting that magnet program together, expanding, well, this is up to them, but they have to expand the boundary to Summerlin, doing those campaigns, all those things that we talked about. And what we said was, we'll do these campaigns, and give us a threshold after so many years that you hold us to, that you make us meet, right? So if the number is 180, whatever it is, 150, say on such and such date, you must have this many kids, or else you have to go charter, right? And so we've offered that compromise because what it does is it minimizes the risk to them, their long-term investment. It is no longer, well, we're going to have to keep running this school forever and ever and ever. We're saying, no, hold us to these, to these standards, and make us, meet our goals, right? And then we agree to take on the expense of running the school in the long term if we're not able to hold up our end of the deal. Right. And so all we're really asking is that they use the insurance and the FEMA money that they're getting from our school having gotten destroyed, right? To fix the school and put us back to square one, right? And then now we're even. Now we're back to zero, right? And then we address the enrollment to fix that cost per student, which is, and it should be, a separate issue, because this was an issue before Ian, right? So we're not asking them to build a school for 50 kids. We're asking them to replace what was already there with the money that they're getting for that very purpose. And once you do that, we're even. Now, the enrollment thing, that was a problem, like I said, from before. And it's not, and we keep talking about it, it's not right to use Hurricane Ian as an excuse to address a problem that should have been addressed a long time ago.
Oh no, that's totally what they're doing. They're using the hurricane to close that school down. But that's just my opinion.
Exactly.
Now, Monica, let me ask you, as a lawyer, is there a legal case against that school district for not using that money for what it was supposed to be used for?
I will tell you, I'm not a lawyer, but I will tell. No, because Ed, there's
pause. I needed an answer.
No, because Ed, there's something that hasn't been thrown out there yet that I think that it's important for everybody to understand. In our discussions with them, that they believe whatever the amount of money that they would get to rebuild the school, and I'm just throwing a dollar figure out there. Let's say it's $15 million. We've asked them point blank, do they believe that they can recover that $15 million and use it somewhere else, not build our school? And they've told us yes.
So here's the thing, Ed, okay? This is where the difference between me and John comes in, okay? I deal with hurricane claims all the time. I deal with FEMA, I deal with insurance, and here's what I know. Insurance money, it's you have the value you collect. FEMA money is very different. Okay, you have reimbursement that you have to. Now, I know there's a lot of different issues, and then when we asked them that, they didn't say point blank. They're like, well, there's a lot of resources and things like that we can get and we can move around. But the actual answer of the reimbursement for the building of our school, they never really actually answered that question, right? Because the thing is that with FEMA, in case everybody who's listening knows, you got to submit receipts. You got to be like, hey, I spent this money. Here it is, right? It's not like insurance where if you have a total loss, they just give you the value of the policy. It doesn't work like that. So it's different money that comes from different sources that's treated differently, But the point is that they're getting this money because our school got destroyed, and we're just asking them to put us back to our pre-Ian position. And if you're using the money that you got, you're back to the pre-Ian position. So put us back to square one. That's it, right? Just put us back to square one.
Right now, because they don't have any receipts, because they didn't do anything, they probably are safe so far because they didn't spend any money on the school to ask for FEMA money. But so I was able to, let me see if I could pull up this one thing here is what you were talking about earlier from Patrick, right? This is what everything comes down to. These are the numbers that you guys are saying that you're going to be able to pull in, or that's what the plan is.
Yeah. So that's the first estimation that he made, and then he made one that was more conservative. Yep, that's it. So we're talking about the pre-COVID numbers were actually 110. As you know, we suffered a lot from COVID. We've kind of had issues. You know, we had red tide, we had COVID, now we have Ian. But yeah, those are the numbers that he was talking about, and those estimations bring us up to 232.
Okay, so let's go through them one at a time. The proximity zone expansion means you can get kids from off the island, go up to Summerlin.
That's to Summerlin, right? Because right now it's just Estero Island and San Carlos Island. That is extending it to Summerlin, and those are actual numbers. That's how many kids we pick up.
So 40% off island waivers. What's that? Isn't that the kind of the same thing?
No. So no. The proximity zone expansion is because right now, in order to be zoned for Fort Myers Beach Elementary, you have to live on one of the two islands. Okay, it's a barrier island school, so you have to live on either San Carlos Island or Estero Island. Okay, what we're saying is Fort Myers Beach 33931 goes all the way to Summerlin. So expand it to Summerlin, right? Rather than like bust the kids in what do you call that neighborhood there? I don't know. Rather than bust them out to Heights, just bring them in here, right? The bus is going to pass right by them anyway. Just pick them up and bring them in, right? Because their address is Fort Myers Beach. So that's the 9. The 40% off island waivers is right now we have 15% of the students that come to our school are from off island. They don't live on our island, and they're in because of some waiver program, right, that we have. So what we're saying is that's the number. Sanibel has 40% of their students off island waivers, and that's the people who work on the island or want to bring their kids to the island because it's a better school, right? Because it's a small school. That's what that is. And
and then magnet school means the really smart kids, right? Or something like that.
No, so that's like if we put in the water school, like John was talking about, we have FGCU program where they want to do the water school can do like certain things with their kids, and we have a program. And so the purpose of a magnet school is, well, to attract, right? That's what it's called, a magnet school. You attract kids from around the district because they're interested in that specific program. And so what Pat did was look at other special programs in other schools, and there he was, I guess, Bonita Sports Academy, and they saw that increased by 20%, and so that's where he got the 20% from. Okay,
so pre-K, obviously that's obvious, and resorts, and that seems like a low number, but okay, so this is a 5-year plan that seems reasonable to get those numbers up. How do you keep? Let me take it off there. How do you keep the progress going on a 5-year plan? Because eventually some of the parents that are working hard on it now, their kids will no longer be at the school and they'll move on to other things. And, you know, this has to be an ongoing thing in order for the school board to continue to, you know.
I mean, so I have a kid that starts kindergarten this coming year, right? So like I'm committed for quite a few years, and then we have interest in it from the community. I mean, we have businesses, you know, like the chamber, they're interested. I mean, we as a community, we want to have a school. So you know, we have a PTO, and the PTO goes, you know, up and down, waxes and wanes the interest, but kind of the same thing. You know, we would have a committee that would be committed to this campaign. And honestly, once you establish a magnet program, it's there, right? Like it's there. You don't need to keep working on that. The campaigning would be, I think, not only something that the school would take on, kind of like the PTO, which has succession, but also the community through like the chamber or local businesses that become educated on the waiver program. That's just like an ongoing thing. I mean, you know, you just keep educating.
It's the same situation as Sanibel's in, Ed, and they've done it. They had to do this before us, but you know, they were in the same situation, and with the use of all these programs, they're able to get their enrollment up. So we just kind of believe that we can mirror what they've done, and we can make it work down here on the island.
Right, and to add to that, we've actually met with Sanibel folks and gotten this. And just so you know, that number that you put up there, that brings our cost per student down to $7,388.
Yeah.
By using
which is way lower than the number the school board's using. So if two questions come to mind. If let's say those numbers start to come to fruition and you know you get up to 150, 170, 180, what's the percentage of those numbers that are actually kids that live on the island and the kids that would be coming from off the island or employees' kids? What would the percentage breakdown be?
Well, those numbers that he was talking about, let me see. So the ones that he was actually talking about that were up there, the percentages are on there. So it would be
I must have cut him off.
Yeah. Oh, who? Me? What?
I must have cut him off when I made that graphic. So I don't know if you can.
Right.
I don't know if you can see it on yours. I don't see the percentage. It's not a big deal. I would just.
I don't think we have that actual number. We asked them for it before, but they told us that that they're real guarded of giving information. I don't know why about what kids live where and where they're going.
No, the assumptions are on there. It's 40% off-island waivers,
Okay.
20% magnet.
Okay.
Well, that's like an increase of 20%. So I don't know if it's 20. I don't know.
Okay. Anyway, I guess I asked that because I'm interested to know how you guys feel about whether when we do this rebuild continues, like, are there going to be more young families that come to the beach and where are they going to live and things like that? I mean,
then we keep growing. We can have permanent portables that we get added, and then like if we get real big, we get like honestly, my goal is to have a K-8 center, which has other challenges because we would need a gym, which we would, if we can do like some sort of an agreement with Bay Oaks where we can use their gymnasium and things like that. And obviously that's a much longer term, but I think it's all doable, and it's something that people have wanted for many, many years is to make it K-8, which that's what Sanibel did, and I think we've got room for that.
I've talked to some of our local realtors, Ed, and they've told me that a lot of people that are having interest in placing and buying down here aren't necessarily the elderly population, that there are working class families that parents due to COVID can work online, and they're looking to take their kids to a beautiful place, which this is, work online and have a good school they can take their kids to. So we're working hard with Jackie through the chambers to try to reach out to people like that.
Gotcha. So if you guys were to do a head count of the school board right now, what's the count?
You mean like for us? I don't know. I guess it depends on the option. I don't know, honestly. I know we have one no for sure.
Who's the no? Who's the no?
Oh, I don't know. I want to throw people under the bus because I don't know if she's changed her mind. But, it's hard.
Is there a possibility that they could vote to not do anything?
Anything's possible.
Well, that's basically option A, Ed.
Okay.
Anything's possible, but I hope not.
Option A is basically not doing anything because they have to do something to the historic building by federal law. So that is their option A. I will tell you that I believe, and this is my personal opinion, that I believe that we will find some support for option B. I'm hoping we could find support for option C, but I believe that we'll find some support for option B.
And what's your guess on what the vote would be on option B, John?
Well, Ed, it's politics, right? So as soon as we get 4, we'll probably get 7.
I don't know about that, but 4 is the number, right?
And 4 is the number.
Do you have any definite yeses? You have any definite in the 4 column?
Well, these new options just came out last night, so we haven't had a chance to actually reach out to the individual board members yet. I know for sure the one board member that I spoke to, and I don't want to put any names on it, but the one board member I spoke to that I had that I had support for option B, and that's the only one I've spoken to.
Okay, so based on the conversations that you had up to when these new options came out, what was your feeling on the number of board members that would vote to rebuild the school?
Well, that you can't ask that question that way because rebuild the school is put portables or build a permanent campus. At the end of the last meeting, I believe strongly, and Dr. Bernier, the superintendent, flat out told me that the board members were leaning towards option B. Back then, that option was to give us a portable campus. That's where I understood that, I don't want to speak for any of the board members. If you're listening, I'm not counting, but I believe there was support for a portable campus back during option B, back during the last presentation.
Okay. So did option B alter a lot from the first time or altered?
Yeah, our option B is totally different. The option B back then was to give us a portable campus. That's why when we got the feeling that they were going to support a portable campus and there was a dollar number attached to that, $5.8 million, that's why you see that number in our current option B saying if there was a willingness to spend that $5.8 million, let's spend it on something permanent instead of spending it on portables.
Okay, so it sounds to me, I'm just reading between the lines, or I'm just pulling something out of my hat. It sounds to me like option C is a no-go, and it's a possibility that you're going to get A or B. And
I disagree.
Okay, you think you might have 4 votes for C, Monica?
No, but I mean, I think that if you break it down logically, honestly, I don't know. I think that there's a possibility. John, I don't think he agrees with me, but I think that option C is a possibility. And if you break it down logically, it really does make sense. I mean, if we're able to minimize their long-term risk by being willing to take on the operational expenses by phasing into a charter, if we can't meet our end of the deal, and all we're asking is for them to put us back to our pre-Ian position, and it's not going to cost them any, it'll put them back in their pre-Ian position by, giving us the money that are
but here's what I think.
I just think logically, why not?
But here's what I think, and what I think means nothing. But if you guys aren't like 100% sure that you have 4 votes for option C, and we're this close to a vote, I mean, is that really realistic that we'll get option C, or should we really be lobbying for B?
Mon, if I could jump in and give my impression, Ed, what I think it's option B. I think that we can gain support for option B, although that we will try to talk to them about option C. But I think that option B, if it works out, at least gives our community a brick and mortar facility and gives us hope to work on this enrollment plan and move forward in the future. And I don't believe that there would be a stomach by the board to go with option A and shut us down if we've shown the willingness to work with them on an option B. So my personal opinion,
let me ask you this, John. I wouldn't say they don't have a stomach for option A. I mean, I've seen that board in operation. I wouldn't be surprised at anything that I see. But again, my opinion doesn't mean anything. If you think that option B is the most likely choice, isn't that what you should rally behind and get the community to rally behind at the next meeting? We want option B. We want option B. Just instead of.
No, because they're all going to get presented to them. I think we need to just explain to them the benefits of all of them and let them make their own intelligent decision. Because
I think what we need to tell them is option A is not, obviously, if you want to tell them, like, option A is undoable down here, but we need a permanent facility. We need a school on our island. Option B gives us that. Option C gives us that. We would love it if you would give us option C. Option B is more of a negotiated tap down. It's less risk for you. We don't get what we want. You don't get what you want. Understand that. I know in the art of negotiation, sometimes you go in high because if you don't, you end up there. But, some of us just feel differently about it. You could tell from me and Monica, we feel different. We feel differently about it. I think that option B is something that's sellable to them. Through all my interactions with all the people I've talked to, I haven't heard a real willingness for option C, but I have heard willingness for option B. So that's what I'm going to be behind.
So why, when you talk to the residents, or if you want the public to go to this meeting on the 22nd, they should probably study option B, and they should, you want them to push option B, right? You want everybody on the same team when it comes to something like this. That's what I think.
We don't want anybody to say this is an option that you should choose. We want, if anything, say don't choose option A, but I think that I think the school board needs to be educated on every single one of the options, and it's to our benefit for them to know what the full ask means for purposes of compromise.
Gotcha. Well, if they're not fully educated on this now, they're never going to be.
They're not.
Well, Ed, they're not right now. That's going to be our job in the next week or two, is to educate them on these options, because they're not.
Because we've been meeting and coming up with these things, and so now this came out yesterday.
They keep changing.
Mm-hmm.
What do you want the people on the beach to do? What do you want the resident? How can they help?
Well, just support. If you can make the meetings, please come to the meetings.
Just show up. But we don't want 100 people signing up to talk, because then nobody gets the word in. So we would like to be somewhat organized, but definitely showing up, and maybe even reaching out. John, maybe we can make ourselves available to people who are looking to, how they can help, and we can somehow be organized, because people who don't know anything about the options may not help, because they might try good intentions, but they may not understand. And I'm happy to educate people and work through them and explain to them what everything really is, if they really want to be part of that.
knowing a
Yeah.
little bit about organizing, what about a sign-up sheet? What's your ideal number of people that you want there so that they get the right amount of time to speak? I'm sure there's going to be other public speakers, but maybe this is the number one. Is it 20? Is it 30? Because you're right. If it's 100, then you got 1 minute, and you want your best speakers to be the ones that are there.
I think we would like to keep the speakers to 20 or less, because then that gives us 3 minutes if we have 20 or less. But I want people to understand, if you're not going to go there and speak, just the fact of being there, if at these meetings we're able to flood this place with 1,000 people to where they can't put us all in the room, then you're speaking without saying anything, just in show of your support.
Right.
Right.
Just being there, they know, they count bodies, like they can see everyone who's there. So
Bright shirts help too.
bright shirts, blue.
But understand, Ed, when we go to this meeting, if there's 5 people that show up that really don't have anything to do with the Beach Elementary, but they sign up to speak, then that's 5 less people than we get to speak. So,
So how do you want people to, where do you want people to go to reach out if they want to help, if they want to organize, if they want to be a speaker? Who do they contact and how?
I mean, we have our group. I don't know. They can contact, I guess. I mean, John, if you're okay, I would say me or John or.
Yeah, just give them our email. Just give them me and Monica's email address, Ed.
Mhm.
Okay, I'll put it in the newsletter tomorrow. So if people want to, if they want to reach out to you, if they want to speak, your email address will be in there.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, thanks very much. Good luck. And if there's anything we can do to help, we're here to help.
Thanks for everything, Ed.
Thanks a lot. Have a great night.
Thanks.
All right, everybody. We will be back tomorrow night. And tomorrow in the newsletter, like I said, I'll do a kind of a recap, link to the video, and give the contact information for John and Monica if you want to contact them about speaking. The meeting is Wednesday, the 22nd at 1 o'clock. And that's not where the vote is. That's going to be a briefing, I guess. Maybe they'll review the 3 options, and then the vote, the actual vote on what option they choose will be either the 2nd or 4th week of March at their next school board meeting. So, all righty, that's it for tonight. And we'll be back tomorrow night live from Mangaritas. And you all have a great night. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.